If your child throws a tantrum every time you have to leave the playground, you are not alone. I'll be sharing 3 tips for playground outings, and you definitely need to hear all 3 to help your child leave the playground without you having to threaten or yell. Hi, I'm Jacinth. I'm a parenting coach and ex-school teacher and a mom to 2 kids. I empower parents with research-backed positive parenting tips so that they can parent with calmness and confidence. If you are new here, I'm sure you will enjoy the actionable tips that I'm sharing, so don't forget to subscribe to my channel. In this video, I talk about how you can remain calm and confident during the playground outings. And if a meltdown still happens despite your best efforts, I've got you covered. Stay till the end and I'll tell you exactly what to do and what to say. Note that while I'm talking about leaving the playground, these transition tips are helpful if your kids are saying goodbye to friends at play dates, leaving grandparents' place, or generally when there is a change in activity or environment. Tip number 1, prepare your child before you go to the playground. It is important to set expectations before you go. Establish the boundary before the fun begins and not while they are in the midst of having fun. I recommend that you practice with your kids before leaving the house. It can sound like this. We will be at the playground for 30 minutes. When it's time to leave, mommy will give you a hand sign to tell you that there is 10 minutes left. Can you tell me how long you will be at the playground? Can you tell me what is the sign that mommy will show when there's 10 minutes left? So what do you do after 10 minutes? Yes, we are going to say goodbye and you will have to leave the playground. Let's pretend that 10 minutes is up and you just came down the slide. Can we practice saying goodbye to the slide? Yes. Bye-bye slide. You might be thinking, what happens if my child doesn't have the concept of time? He or she doesn't know what is 10 minutes. So there are a few things you can do here. Some parents in my course shared with me that they tell their children the number of times they have left to go down, for example, the slide. So that will be one way for children who are not able to understand time. The other way is to get your kids to set the timer himself. So even though the child is not able to understand how long 3 minutes is, you can set a timer for 3 minutes and the child can see that, that circle around the countdown timer is getting shorter and shorter. So when the alarm rings, the child can see that, oh yes, the time is up, and it's a reminder for the child to leave the playground. Tip number 2 is to follow through the plan at the playground. Now this tip might sound very obvious, right? But there are some parents who want to avoid the power struggles and they tend to give in, and this will just lead to more power struggles in the future playground outings. Before your child runs off to play, remember we talked about how they should know the expectation. I want you to ask your child once more how much time they have at the playground and what is the signal that you will give. For example, 10 minutes when they only have 10 minutes left. When the time is up and your child agrees to leave, I want you to celebrate and affirm your child for keeping to the agreed time. I saw that you were having so much fun, but you did well when you saw my signal for 10 minutes and you prepared to leave the playground. You should be proud of yourself. Of course, things don't always go according to plan. What happens if the child throws a tantrum when it's time to leave? Now, I want you to pause and breathe. Tell yourself this is not an emergency and you have the situation under your control. Look beyond the outward behavior and be curious about the resistance. What is the unmet need your child has? Perhaps he's in the middle of a pretend play and he doesn't like to be disrupted, or he just met a new friend and he wants to continue playing with his friend. What you can do is to go over and ask your child. Acknowledge his feelings and his needs, but remember to set clear boundaries. It can sound like this. You really wish to play longer. I know you're having fun with your new friend. It is hard to go, especially when you're having so much fun. You can also empower your children by giving them age-appropriate choices. For example, do you want to say goodbye to the slide or the swing? Do you want to play for 1 more minute or 2 more minutes? Let's set the alarm. Now, at this note, my best tip is to make sure that the alarm is going to ring loudly, because I've had experience when my kids say, no, I did not hear the alarm ring. You might be thinking, Jacinth, you said to set firm boundaries, but why is it that you're giving the child 1 or 2 more minutes? Now, the key to setting the boundary is to be firm but not rigid. To us, 1 or 2 minutes don't really mean much, but if you can give your kids this option of 1 to 2 minutes, the child feels empowered and in control, and this will lead to lesser power struggles. But I'm not saying that you should keep giving extensions, so be very careful that you want to be firm with your boundaries as well. I feel like the most you can give is just 1 more extension situation, but this is the time where you want to look at your child in the eye and let your child know you want to play a little bit longer. I'm just going to give you one last extension. Do you want to play for 1 minute or 2 minutes? What are you going to do when the timer rings? So reminder not to give too many extensions. If as parents we don't stay true to our words, our children will continue pushing and testing their boundaries. And the parent and child will get into this vicious cycle of endless power struggle and frustration. Tip number 3 is to allow the meltdowns. I am going to be very real. No matter how well you prepare your child to expect that, they have to leave the playground, to learn how to manage their emotions, your kids are still kids. There will be a chance that your child will still throw a tantrum, and that is okay. Remember, tantrums are your kids' way of releasing the pent-up emotions in them. This is very normal for young children because they are still developing their impulse control. If you do need help with tantrums, I highly recommend you download the free tantrums guide that I have, where I share the brain science behind tantrums, the what, why, and how to manage tantrums, so that with that knowledge, you can better handle the meltdowns from your kids. I have included the download link in the description box below. So what do you do when your child goes into a meltdown? Firstly, ignore the looks of the people around you and focus on your child. Remember, this meltdown does not reflect your parenting ability. Allow your child to release the big feelings. I know it can be difficult to tolerate the cries, but I want to assure you that the cries will eventually stop. You can help your child to regulate his emotions, maybe by holding his hands, sitting beside him, bringing your child further away where the crowds are, to give your child the space and time to calm down. This is not the time to teach because your kids are clearly not in the right state of mind. They are emotionally dysregulated, and your only goal is to keep them settled and return to equilibrium. You can ask your child, do you need a hug? When your child shows signs of calming down, this is then a better time for you to reiterate the boundary that you have set. The sky is dark and we are going home for dinner now. You can then add in reasonable choices. For example, do you want to come back again tomorrow or the next day? What I did with my children is to record down in my phone calendar the day that we'll return to the playground. So I'll open up calendar app and I'll put an @ sign to the specific day. I will say come to the playground, and I'll get my kids type it in, maybe putting a little emoticon, and yeah, that's how you can help your child feel assured that they will be back, and this builds trust between the parent and child as well. Many of us might be more familiar with using threats or bribes to get our kids to leave the playground. While such methods do work in the short term, they lose their effectiveness in the long run. It is possible to get our kids to leave without threatening and yelling. I've seen it for myself and for the parents that I've taught in my course. One parent actually shared with me that other parents were very surprised when her girl willingly said goodbye and leave without throwing any tantrum. I want you to see these playground outings as opportunities for your kids to learn. These are chances for your kids to build skills, to learn about emotion regulation, making choices within the boundaries, and develop impulse control. Try the tips in this video and don't give up. Over time, your child will grow to maximize their time at the playground and happily say goodbye. I have created a playlist here with all the positive parenting tips, so feel free to click and continue watching. See you in the next video.